likes it or not, that we cut down somebody else's tree. I don't really care. We're doing it for the good of the city, so, yeah, I can support this.
Then I would make a motion to adopt resolution number 2518 approving the final plat and restrictive covenants for Dogwood 5th edition.
Second?
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Bruns,
Yes.
Pick,
Yes.
Goodchild,
Yes.
Sturgeon,
Yes.
Wick,
Yes.
Motion carried.
Motion to authorize a development agreement be drafted for the development of Dogwood 5th edition.
Second?
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Motion to establish May 20th, 2025 at 12 p.m. as a public hearing to rezone Dogwood 5th edition from AG agricultural to R1A medium density residential.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Pick,
Yes.
Bruns,
Yes.
Goodchild,
Yep.
Sturgeon,
Yes.
Wick,
Yes.
Motion carried. D3, Parcel 12-17-401-36 rezoning. On April 29, 2025, the Planning and Zoning Commission approved the proposed rezoning of PT Lot 3 at Holton Subdivision Parcel A 12-17-401-036 from I3 Heavy Industrial to B2 General Business. Attached is an aerial of the property located along Holton Drive and Blue Diamond Drive. Administration is and the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend council proceed to a public hearing.
Is everybody aware of where this is at, what I tried to depict on that aerial?
Right behind Baumgart's, right?
Yep.
It's usually a cornfield or something with a bunch of bags in it. Like, kind of a mess. I'd like to get it cleaned up. I've been saying that for years. So,
Ag storage property.
yeah. I'll move to make a motion to establish May 20, 2025 at 12 p.m. as a public hearing to rezone PT Lot 3, Holton Subdivision Parcel A 12-17-401-036 from I3 Heavy Industrial to B2 General Business.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. D4, budget amendment. Every year in April, May, administration reviews the fiscal year to date budget to see if a budget amendment is needed. Budget amendments are required by the state of Iowa on a program level expenditures that exceed the adopted budget amount. Some common budget amendment expenditures include expenditures relating to receiving an unplanned grant or donation, operating expenditure overages due to unforeseen cost increases, equipment purchases that were unplanned but needed, improvements that were unplanned or had unforeseen cost increase, capital project expenditures due to unpredictability of timing. Each amended expenditure must have a corresponding explanation of the funding source. Administration recommends council establish a public hearing to hear public comments regarding the fiscal year 2024-2025 budget amendment.
If you've had a chance to look through what Joe just figured and telling you about explanations of line increases.
Yeah, I was very pleased with Joe's response to me on some of these, so.
So, one thing that I do want to touch on though is with these budgets and amendments, for the state and our auditors at the end of the day, they really don't worry about the revenue side as much as it is for the expenditure side. You can't overspend a certain line. So that's what we have to sit here and say, we need to add some expense or some value to these lines. I was very conservative in these amounts because I didn't want to go over. This is the last chance we get to put the money in there to say it might hit this. Most of them won't hit that high. But to be cautionary, I put them a little higher than what I think it needs to be.
But with that, have we got all of our FEMA money?
But,
Or-
that'll be coming.
Is that in this?
That's kind of that, in that capital projects.
Okay.
Is where that lies.
Okay,
So, I mean, that's part of that 1 million in there for that.
okay.
So as that comes in, this goes down.
That, well, no, the expenses are always gonna happen. So just because you have a revenue to offset the expense still has to be accounted for. So no matter what, if you have a grant to pay for something, you still have that expense that's gonna hit the books.
Okay.
So, just because you have a funding source, doesn't mean you can't
You
include
can't
it.
show the expense, right?
Right, that expense still
Has to
happens.
be shown, right?
Yep, so that's kind of where this hits a little different, that, yes, it was covered by something, but the expense still happens, so we have to
Right.
take that into account. And that's just short of $1 million in the FEMA stuff, which is being finalized hopefully within this month, so we get our payments before June 30.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
And the last one under the big one, the big business type enterprise, that's where the majority of the amendment came. We've got the water project going, we've still got engineering costs and whatnot that can come in for wastewater. And then also, I don't get to see the hospital stuff, but they are also included in that number as a whole number. And they also got a project approved, earlier this fiscal year, so I wanted to include a little bit of that, just to make sure we're covered if they have expenses coming.
So, but like you just said, just because it is an expense, because it's city-owned, but they have a revenue source that's gonna cover it,
Yep.
but we still have to show the tracking, okay?
Still have to show that, because whenever we get their audited numbers, that's what's gonna show.
Right,
So that's what's gonna show up on their line item for this.
Okay.
It's all in part of that.
okay.
At the end of the day, we're just trying to make sure we don't get a comment in our audit.
Black eye on Joe.
Well, thanks for the explanation. It makes it easier for me to grasp it, and I appreciate your work on that.
Yeah, I
And
do
if
too.
if we needed to change anything, if you didn't want to be that conservative on the numbers, I mean, we could dial it back, or if you think, whatever, I mean, we can change that, because this is, whatever we decide now is what's gonna get published for this.
This is where you get the big bucks, and I just take your word for it.
Oh, we're good.
I'd make a motion establishing May 20th, 2025 at 12 p.m. to hear public comment regarding amendments to the fiscal year 2024-25 budget and publishing notice thereof.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Sturgeon,
Yes,
Bruns,
Yes.
Pick,
Yes.
Goodchild,
Yep.
Quick,
Yes.
Motion carried. Item D5, PlyWood Trail 1B Construction Services Agreement Addendum. Attached is an addendum to the construction services agreement with McClure Engineering for Phase 1B of the PlyWood Trail, originally dated May 2, 2023. The addendum covers construction services required beyond the original contract limits. The project exceeded the contractual completion by 43.5 days. The contractor on the project has been charged for exceeding the time limit. Administration recommends council approve the agreement addendum. The city will pay McClure, and the city will be reimbursed by the Iowa Economic Development Authority through the Destination Iowa Grant or the PlyWood Trail Executive Committee.
Okay, so this is, just like all the plywood stuff has been, it's just passed through. So there is an agreement, there has been an agreement reached with the contractor on the penalties and the deducts. Penalties because of exceeding and deducts because of work quality and punch list item costs. Okay, so there is an agreement, but The DOT, right now it's in the DOT's hand. They have to approve that agreement. They haven't done so yet. And what that does will, I don't want to say kick off, but it'll remove Godberson Smith, who was the contractor, from the project. Okay, there are still things that need to be completed because of quality issues. But once they're removed, then we're free to hire a different contractor to make those repairs. Okay? And in that agreement is the cost to hire somebody else to make those repairs. So this is simply making the contract with McClure up to date because of the Godberson Smith contract. Okay, so
Is there a reason Godberson Smith isn't gonna fix the defects?
We don't want them to. Mostly.
Well, the discussion we had was that they've agreed to take less payment and that we would be able to then hire someone else to do it. Right. Is that my recollection correct on that? Yeah. So that agreement does, nothing, what we're talking about here today doesn't necessarily
This is just
affect
the
that.
engineering part.
This, right, so, yeah, right. So in terms of what McClure has done, or, right, we're talking about.
yeah, this is all
Everybody-
past tense cost.
Yeah, I mean, everybody is satisfied with the work that they've done, and if there is work that we find that for whatever reason wasn't done properly, do we still have some sort of recourse with regard to that? Or are we approving everything that
Recourse
they?
with who?
Well, yeah, McClure is just, well, if we found out that there was an engineering flaw, I guess, since it's just the engineering part, correct? I mean, basically what I'm saying is, by doing this, are we releasing McClure from all liability?
Oh, no, they're still under contract.
Okay,
This is just an
okay.
addendum to the current
Okay.
contract.
I just
And
wanted
only
to
the
make sure.
construction side of it, correct? Only the construction side. This is a
I
settlement.
believe the current, the May 2nd, 2023
Yeah,
would have
sorry.
been the construction
Right.
portion of it, not the design part of it.
Right. Sorry, I misspoke. I should have said construction, but, okay.
Motion to approve the addendum to the agreement for construction services for PlyWood Phase 1B with McClure Engineering at a cost of $43,500.
Second. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We're on to D6, Business Highway 75 repairs. In 2017, the City of Lamar's undertook Business Highway 75 overlay project. The project was a 4-inch PCC overlay using the existing surface as a base and extended from Plymouth Street to the north end of 18th Street Southwest on the south end. Total construction costs at the time were $1,793,671. Just over 2 years after completion, the roadway began to break up and repairs were needed. No definite explanation or determination as to why the breakups were occurring. Over the last 6 years, the city has spent roughly $635,000 on those repairs. It appears repairs will continue until the entire length of the project is replaced. We can continue to make yearly repairs until completely replaced and absorb increasing construction costs, or we can move forward with a project to reconstruct the entire length. Administration is recommending council allow staff to engage an engineering firm to begin the design and ultimately reconstruction of Business Highway 75 from Plymouth Street to 18th Street Southwest. Approval to move forward with the project after design would need council approval. Project costs would be funded through a GO-TIF bond. Approved to move forward with bonding would need council approval.
Okay, so I tried to give you enough information there, and I'll give you some more too here. I just drove it again yesterday, and more than likely, the project on the south end might be closer to 12th Street than to 18th Street, just by what it looked like yesterday. But what this does is I want everybody is aware of what that looks like and what it has looked like for years. So what I'm doing is it's time to move forward with fixing the thing the right way. And what this would do would be completely tear it out and a brand new street put in there. Like I said, you know, and Scott's here to talk too. He's been heavily involved in the repairs and seeing what's happened. I put in there, there's been no explanation, no good explanation for why it's happening. There's been a lot of theories throughout the years of why it was. It was a fixed curb, it was a paper material on the outside 5 or 6 feet. Unsealed joints, which is typical in unsealed joints, I'll just leave it at that. Unevenness of subgrade, thickness of the overlay. I mean, there's been a number of different things. It's still a mystery, I think, because if you've all paid attention to what's happened over the years, it all started on the outside edges.
Yep.
On the fixed, where we paved up against a fixed curb. It all started there, but it's over the years, it's now moved into, it keeps moving towards the center. And it's really, if you drive that entire length, you'll notice it now as we're starting to get at the 6th Avenue intersection is breaking up terrible. In front of Total, it's starting to break up. In front of Bumgar's, and it's all starting at that curb area. If you go across to the other side of the railroad side where there is no curb, there's very little stuff happening on that side. So I'm not going to try to throw out a reason for why it's happening, but it is. So we can, like I said, we can continue to throw money at it every year to fix it, and eventually it'll be completely replaced because our current fixes are full depth.
Right. Which is how much? What is full depth? I mean, it's 12, 16?
What's
I
that?
want to say that one was close to 20 inches
And that's
by Bob's when we just redid that.
That's why a complete replacement, which, by the way, I'm thinking I'm totally in favor of, is gonna be more expensive, a lot more expensive, because we're not even close to the full depth.
We do full depth.
In your replacement now.
Now,
Right,
yep.
but you-
Now.
Now, yep. But when we probably do it, I would say 12 inches would be enough.
Yeah.
So it'd be a lot of crushings to bring it up to, I don't think you would go over a foot deep for the new construction.
You would be okay with original ground compaction? I mean, why wouldn't you wanna go I'm asking a
Well,
question.
you'd have to do testing on that, but I'm just saying at 22 inches to bring it up, you're gonna have to bring crushings, repack everything. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
But that's
So
really-
like, in front of Bob's, that repair, I did take pictures of that. That original road underneath had no problem. It was solid.
Really?
It does not make sense. That overlay, yeah, and it's just not, and I'm, all the way down to 18th, we replaced some of that where it met up with the old already. We did a full width all the way across. And I've driven it too, but if you get out and walk it, there's a lot of cracks. And we actually got joints that are 2 inches off where that road is shifted.
Right.
You go around the curve by Family Table, it's already pulled almost an inch away. It's shifted when the traffic, is going around, it's shifted to the.
It's shifting towards the railroad tracks. It's
Going
almost
too
like-
fast around that corner.
Yeah.
Not my wife's car.
But that's really what we're deciding today, is if we want to have an engineering study done that would give us recommendations as to what.
Well, whoever
depth should be.
engineered the first one, I wouldn't use
Yeah,
them.
I don't think we want to use them either, but,
Okay,
but I mean,
so-
that's the purpose of what we're doing today is, do we hire an engineer and then they give us the recommendations, right? So-
Can we, if we go this route and hire an engineer, I support this, okay? But then let's get rid of a street we've talked about getting rid of. Let's do this all at one time and be done with it. Let's get rid of that. Let's possibly go down to 3-lane highway instead of 4. We've talked about that for years. So if we're gonna do a study, why not do a study that says this is what it's gonna look like in 3 years when it's done? You know what I'm saying? Done correctly, and be done with it. And maybe there is no support for getting rid of the street, maybe there is no support for going to 3 lanes, but we've talked about it for years. And
Yeah, but
But-
we've had that study done of what we should do from Highway 3 south. That was
okay.
done 2-3 years ago.
Okay, is Dairy Queen Road taken out of that?
It was all recommendations.
But was it recommended?
I think it was in there.
I believe it was
Because we
recommended.
asked them to look at it.
So I mean, what I'm saying is if we're going to do this, let's incorporate the whole darn works and get it done and quit talking about it.
A couple of decisions have to be made.
Oh,
Dairy Queen Road, I think we all agree with. I'm not sure we all agree on the 3 lanes, so.
Okay, and that's fine, Mark, but I'm saying let's do it once and be done with it. Whether the,
There's
what,
some that don't agree with Dairy Queen Road too, that
I understand that too. And
use for emergency response to trailer courts and stuff, so.
I realize that, and I'm not saying I think I support it, but I'm willing to listen, but we've talked about it, and if we're redoing 75, let's get it done. That's my point. All in one
Well,
project.
I will,
You
just
follow-
to refresh everybody's memory, I will redistribute that study that was done for all of you to look through again. And then, I guess, decide if you want to go that route.
I know what-
What's
for a
that?
roundabout there?
I was just gonna say, it does
railroad
make
is the
sense though,
problem.
not to do this entire road and then go back and do things to this entire
Right.
road. So I mean, I agree with doing it all, but we have to make those decisions.
Can we put a center medium in it? Sioux Center's got one.
The roundabout will not work
No.
because of the railroad.
Right, there's
tracks.
not
You have
enough room
people
there.
just going,
Right.
waiting for the train to go.
Get dizzy.
They would have to.
Get dizzy and then have
How else would you do it?
Just like they do sometimes now, they just park and you just have to wait.
All I'm saying is that is a disaster. It has been a disaster. The only typo in here is just 2 years after completion. I think it was just after the concrete dried is when it was. It has been a disaster from day one, and it's getting worse, and we need to deal with it, period. That's all there is to it.
So if you take that first block from Bob's down to Casey's, so I figured it out, so if you do repairs of them coming in every year to do a complete, I think we were gonna leave the curb